Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with A Little Princess. Chapter 5, Life in the Attic. Sara wanted to only go upstairs to her room and think about everything that happened on this terrible day. However, before Sara reached the landing, Miss Amelia came out of her room and closed the door behind her. She stood before the young girl, looking nervous and awkward, ashamed of what she had been ordered to do. You are not to go in there, she said, reddening a bit. This is not your room now. She realized, somehow, all at once, Sara understood. She realized what Miss Minchin had meant when she said her life would be different from now on. Where is my room? Sara asked, hoping that her voice would not shake. In the attic next to Becky, Miss Amelia answered. Sara knew where that was because Becky had described it to her. Proudly, she turned and walked up 2 flights of very narrow stairs. She felt as if she were walking away and leaving the world in which she had lived far beyond her. Sara, in her short, tight dress, climbing the steps to the attic, was quite a different creature from the girl of only a few hours ago. Yes, the attic was another world. There was an old iron bed with a faded cover and some furniture too worn to be used downstairs. Under the skylight in the roof stood a battered red footstool. Suddenly there was a tap at the door. It opened slightly. Becky peeked in. "Oh, miss," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Can I come in?" "Oh, Becky," Sara said. "I told you we were just the same. Just 2 girls. You see how true it is. There's no difference now. I'm not a princess anymore." Becky ran over to Sara and sobbed. "Yes, you are. Whatever happens, you'd be a princess all the same." The first night Sara spent in the attic was one she would never forget. Over and over, all night long, she kept whispering to herself, "My father is dead. My father is dead. I will never see him again." It was still hard for her to believe it. The darkness seemed more intense than any she had ever known, and the wind howled over the roof. And then there was something much worse. Inside the walls, rats and mice skittered about. Once or twice she had heard tiny, sharp-toed feet walking across the floor, and she lay there trembling, quickly covering her head with the thin blanket. The next morning, when she came down to breakfast, Mariette was leaving. Sara's old room had been turned into a plain bedroom. Lavinia now occupied Sara's former place at the head of the table. "You will begin your new duty, Sara," Miss Minchin said coldly, "by sitting with the younger girls at the smaller table. You must keep them quiet and see that they do not waste their food. Lottie has already upset her tea." The morning was the beginning of the new life she was to live at the school. From day to day, Sara's duties increased. She taught the younger girls French and helped them with their other lessons, but these were the least of her chores. The rather bossy cook and the uppity housemaids followed Miss Minchin's example. They seemed to be enjoying sending Sara on errands all over the city and in all kinds of weather. As Sara became shabbier and more forlorn, she was ordered to take her meals downstairs with the other servants. Sara's own lessons had become a thing of the past. However, she could only study on her own in an empty classroom at night. Sara would have been extremely lonely if not for the other girls who stood by her. First was Becky. It was a great comfort just to know that on the other side of the attic there was another human being. Just before there was daybreak every day, Becky would come to Sara's room and help her get ready. During the day, both girls were kept so busy with their chores that they never got a minute alone. But at night, Becky always stopped by Sara's room to offer her help. The second girl whose friendship meant a great deal to Sara was Ermengarde, who had been home visiting her family when the tragedy struck. On her return to school, Ermengarde saw Sara coming down the hall, carrying a large stack of clothes to be mended. She knew what had happened, but she never imagined that Sara could look so pathetic and poor, almost like a servant. Because she was nervous, Ermengarde said the wrong thing. "Are you very unhappy, Sara?" "Do you think I'm very happy?" A thought flashed through Sara's mind. "She's like the others. She doesn't want to talk to me. No one does." So for several weeks there was a barrier between these 2 old friends. When they met by chance, Sara looked the other way, and Ermengarde felt too embarrassed to speak. Then one night, Sara found Ermengarde waiting for her in her room. Oh, Sarah, I don't care if I get caught sneaking up here or not, Ermengarde wailed. Tell me, what's the matter? Don't you like me anymore? Oh, I still like you, Sarah assured her, remembering their pledge to be best friends. I thought you were different now, somehow. It's you who are different, Ermengarde cried. You don't seem to want to talk. I didn't know what to do. I am different, Sarah explained. Though not in the way you think. Miss Minchin doesn't want me to talk to the other girls. Most of them, like Lavinia, don't want to talk to me. I thought perhaps you didn't, so I kept out of your way. No, Sarah, I can't live without our being friends, cried Ermengarde. Maybe you could live without me, but I couldn't live without you. You're much nicer than I am, Sarah said. I was too proud to try and be friends again. Well, we are friends again, Ermengarde said, looking around the attic. But Sarah, how could you bear living here? If I pretend it's quite different, I can, Sarah answered. If I pretend it's a place in history, other people have lived in worse places. Think of the Count of Monte Cristo in the dungeon of the Chateau d'If. Think of the people in the Bastille in Paris before the French Revolution. Yes, I will pretend I am a prisoner in the Bastille. Miss Minchin is the jailer, and Becky is the prisoner in the next cell. And you will tell me all about it? Ermengarde asked, happy that Sarah's imagination was beginning to work for her again. We'll be better friends than before. Yes, answered Sarah, nodding. Hardship tries people. My hardships have tried you and proved how nice you are. Little Lottie was very young and did not know what hardship like Sarah's meant. Although she had heard that bad things had happened to Sarah, she could not understand why Sarah wore that awful black dress and came to the classroom to teach instead of learning herself. Are you very poor now, Sarah? She asked first thing in the morning. Are you as poor as a beggar? I don't want you to be as poor as a beggar. Beggars have nowhere to live, Sarah said courageously. I have a place to live. Where do you live? Lottie persisted. We must not talk about this, Sarah cautioned her. Miss Minchin wouldn't like it. But Lottie was a very determined little person. If Sarah would not tell her where she lived, she could find out some other way, mainly through school gossip. When her search led her to the attic, she was close to tears. Don't cry and don't make a sound, Sarah begged her. Otherwise, I will really be scolded. It's already been a bad day. You know, it really isn't a bad room. Isn't it? Lottie asked, being around the attic, biting her lip. Why isn't it, Sarah? You can see all sorts of things you can't see downstairs, she said, like chimneys. Quite close to us was smoke curling up in the wreaths, and clouds going up in the sky, and sparrows hopping about and talking to each other as if they were people. Up here it feels as high, as if there were another world. Oh, let me see it, cried Lottie. Lift me up. Sarah lifted her, and they stood on the old table together. What a different world they saw. The slates on the roof slanted down to the rain gutter pipes. The sparrows, being at home, twittered and hopped about without fear. The attic window next door was shut because the house was empty. I wish someone lived there, Sarah said. It is so close. If there was another little girl in the attic, we could talk to each other easily and climb back and forth to visit. When Sarah had persuaded Lottie to go back downstairs, she stood alone on the cold, bare floor. The bed was hard and covered with a dingy quilt. The paint wall showed its cracks and broken patches, and the battered footstool still headed sideways on its broken leg. That Lottie had come and gone away made things a little worse. Perhaps as prisoners feel after visitors come and go, leaving them behind, Sarah thought. The attic is a lonely place, Sarah said out loud. Sometimes it's the loneliest place in the world. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.